Good evening, and thank you for joining us for tonight's Dixie Fire Incident Update. My name is Antonio Negretti. I'm one of the public information officers assigned to the incident. This evening, you will hear from various experts in their field updating you on recent evacuations, fire activity, and weather. If you have any questions for our speakers this evening, please submit them in the comments below. First, let me bring you the latest numbers regarding the Dixie Fire. The Dixie Fire is currently at 881,086 acres with 55% containment. There are currently 3,691 personnel assigned to the incident. I'd like to introduce you to our first speaker. Please welcome incident meteorologist Derek Williams.
Good evening. After several days of gusty west to southwest winds across the fire area, we saw some light, what we call terrain-driven winds today, generally less than 10 miles an hour, and those are winds that generally flow uphill and up canyon or upriver. So those developed today, pretty light, less than 10 miles an hour. That kept the smoke in here for most of the day, so it caused some poor visibility in some of the deeper valleys. But overall, it was a pretty quiet weather day. As we go forward, it continues to be very, very dry. We'll see poor overnight relative humidity or very low humidity, especially in the higher elevations of 20 to 30%. That's about as high as it will get. And during the daytime, the next few days, they will still get down to the single digits, so 9 to 15% relative humidity during the day, so it remains very, very dry. The area remains under an extreme, in some cases, an exceptional drought, so this is a long-term, it's also a long-term dry spell. And as the next few days go on, we will start to see a return to those west-southwest winds. Those are a typical kind of wind pattern we see during the summertime here in Northern California, especially up the Sierra mountains. But we don't expect those winds to be at critical levels. We're talking about 10 miles an hour with gusts to 20 miles an hour during the afternoon. So pretty steady wind, but manageable considering the past few days of what we had. As we go forward into the weekend, we do expect, or Sunday and Monday, we do expect a increase in temperatures. A high pressure builds overhead, so those temperatures will rise above normal and still remain dry. Come Tuesday, we do have a weather system coming in that will give us some gusty winds and perhaps just a slight chance of a shower, but really the chance of wetting rain is very minimal. So we might have to wait for next week for another system to come through. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, that was our incident meteorologist, Derek Williams. The next speaker we have for you tonight is our fire behavior analyst, Chief Don Watt.
Good evening. So you heard the IMET talk about how the weather was very mellow today in respect. So that also helped out with our fire behavior. The fire really didn't move a whole lot today. It was very calm. There was interior islands that continued to burn actively throughout the day. We're not seeing as much tree torching or spotting potential as it just kind of slowly backs through some of the understory. You will see a flare up every once in a while, and a lot of that smoke production that you're seeing in the area is from those interior areas burning out. The one big thing we've talked about last couple of days is the fire has been going on for so long. We do have some of those leaves and needle litter now creating another layer on top of the ground. So some of those, as they hit hot material, they'll continue to burn actively in small areas and producing smoke. The good thing with the weather is without those strong winds, it kind of shades the fuel with the smoke, and that kind of helps keep it calm for the day. So tomorrow, a little bit increased winds. We'll see some clearing of that smoke. It shouldn't be anything drastic as far as fire behavior goes, but it will clear out some of those areas, and you might see a little more activity. Nothing that's really going to threaten the lines. There's no concern for large fire growth, especially on the north end up in that Lassen and Shasta sector. You will start seeing some of that growth a little bit down on the southern portion, that Janesville, where there's the area kind of coming out to the south there. The good thing is with the shading of the smoke in that valley, you probably won't see the strong winds that want to carry the fire down that slope near 395 as hard. It will want to back down a little bit easier. So that's really going to help us out in the advantage of getting control on the fire coming down to that 395 corridor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Watt. Our next speaker is the Operations Section Chief for the West Zone, Chief Tony Brownell.
Good evening. I'll give you a little update on the west sector, the west side of the fire. So I'm going to start off in Branch 9. Branch 9 has been in mop-up stages for quite some time, but we're still having issues with what we're calling needle drop and unburned fuels. So we'll get unburned fuels. The fire doesn't always consume all the fuels when it goes through there. We call it dirty burn. So some of those areas are heating up a little bit and causing some problems. They're not jumping the line everywhere, but there is hot spots near the line, and we continually work those. Yesterday afternoon, we had a fire that came out in the Butte Meadows area off Humbug Summit Road. That was a result of a spot fire that came out of the original fire. We haven't had no fire movement in the Butte Meadows for several weeks. But with that needle drop and hot material, when the wind comes up, there's always a possibility of that stuff coming out and getting across the line. That's why we're continuing to patrol this thing for a long time. If you remember early in the fire, we've been getting spotting up to a mile, 2 miles is common. We had one spot recorded up to 6 miles. When we mop up, we only mop up so far inside of a fire, usually 300 to 500 feet in, or we'll go for active smokes. We cannot always go and get every active smoke or find every little smoke near the line, because we just frankly don't have enough personnel for a fire this size. So there's going to be areas that are going to keep heating up. The Mountain Meadows area is a good example in that dry lake bed. It's all organic material, several feet deep. We've been having crews in there for weeks on weeks trying to put out those spot fires in there. We even put sprinkler systems on some of the spot fires, and the fire keeps popping back up. So continuously we have crews in there working, trying to put that out, but that's going to be a very long process in that. You're going to see smoke in there probably for another couple of weeks. So moving up, and like I said, this is the 832, 36, 89 area. Still having a little bit of issues in there, but we are making good success in that. That's the Mill Creek area. Moving up into Branch 13, that's in the Lassen Volcanic National Park. It's a sensitive area. There's an old burn scar in there from the Reeder fire. There's a lot of standing dead snags, and there's a lot of snags on the ground. All that stuff contributes to fire spread. Standing snags cause issues with firefighters. Firefighters die every year from snag fall. So we even had an incident earlier that we had a snag come down on one of our crews, caused several injuries. We use a lot of caution when we get in that area. We have to be very careful not to hurt firefighters. We did put some mechanical equipment in there today, starting to work to build that line to tie it into the top of the park. We're having good success. We're hoping in the next day or two we have that line in place. Moving into the Quebec and Romeo in Branch 16. Quebec had a little issue today. We had one spot come out of it, but we caught it pretty early. It's only less than a quarter acre, half acre. And then Romeo still has a lot of heat in there from that timber slash in there. So a lot of work's going in there, and that's going to take us quite a while to get that cooled down. The fire has not got outside our primary containment lines in that area at all. Moving down Sierra and Tango, we still have a lot of resources in there working there, getting that thing mopped up on the 821 road and getting it mopped up as far as we can, because there is traffic in that area. We don't want to make sure there's no danger to the traffic at all. A lot of snags. Chester area, we're getting a couple calls for service in there every once in a while, but we're taking care of them. If you do see something that needs attention, please call 911. We'll come out and we'll take care of it for you or evaluate it. 36 open that corridor. We've been working that pretty hard. There should be not a lot of smokes left in there. It is safe, and we are continuing to monitor that area. The Janesville area, fire went through there several weeks, or about a week or so ago. It's a 30,000 acre spot fire that came out of the main fire, and that was a spot fire that was 6 miles outside the main fire. We're mopping up around there. There is some structure loss in there. There is a lot of heat around the structure still. We're mopping up all that stuff so it's safe to repopulate it. That takes time. We want to make sure it's safe when we send the public back in. They're not going to get hurt from a snag or a stump hole or anything like that. It's burning. It's going to injure them. Moving down the Papa in the east zone. We're assisting the east zone in this fire because we are concerned it's going to come off that escarpment with a head of steam and go towards the structures on 395. Currently, the fire is backing off the escarpment, which is basically the ridge line or cliff, and we're monitoring it. We're keeping it in check, And we're also building lines on both sides of that fire, what we call the head of the fire, which is the hottest part, usually moving where the most speed. Because even though the weather's cooperating today, that could change tomorrow or the next day with a wind event. So we have all the structures back there that are prepped and ready. We have dozer line around all of them. There's roughly 100 structures out between Milford and the Beckworth burn. They're all in check. We have resources down there watching them. We're building a line down the left flank of the fire, which is the left side of this finger. Finger is a part of the fire that came off the main fire. We're down to Snow Peak, and we're moving over towards the Warner burn on the other side, or excuse me, the Walker burn. So some of the questions that Silver Lake we had the other day. To our knowledge, there's no structure lost around Silver Lake. We're working hard in the valley above Chester, Warner Valley, trying to get that secured for repopulation. This little finger right here that comes up, this little pocket, we're making sure that's secure, so no issues in Warner Valley, but we're working on that hard. When we evaluate for repopulation, that is done every morning. We look at everything. We work with our cooperators, both law enforcement and utilities, to make sure it's safe for people to go back in. It's a process, and we do it as quickly as we can. We want to get you back in your home. Believe me, we want you back in. If you have any questions, please write in. I'll be happy to answer for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for that great information. For our next speaker, we're going to take you out to the East Zone via video, where we will be presenting to you the Operations Chief for the East Zone, Ian Satterfield.
Good evening. Ian Satterfield, Planning Ops Trainee for Great Basin Team 1. I'll give you the operational plan for tomorrow and what occurred today. We'll start in branch 25 down in WWXX. Everything looks really good down in this division. It's been, all the crews have been down in there mopping up, holding, patrolling, no issues. Working up into November, we had crews up at the Dyer Mountain area, holding, patrolling, working on pulling out hose and equipment out of there, assisting with our partners to the west with this little area up in here by Lake Meadows. Coming around the horn to November on the other side, we had crews all in here holding, patrolling, and mopping up. No issues reported out there. Coming into Indian Valley, where our uniform division is, crews looked at opportunities to improve some of our lines out here. They're looking at coming off DP 219 down where our hand line comes down into Indian Valley and improving that. And then they constructed some more line coming off the fire's edge here back down to some more dozer line here. So they're working to improve that. We're hoping to cut off a big section of area here when we have to deal with this. We still have fire in the Devil's Punch Bowl. It is being checked up today. No issues are reported out of there today, so that was good news. Moving over into the Genesee Valley area, we had folks in there. They were all in around the structures, doing mop-up, working diligently to get 100 feet around all those structures in there. We had two strike teams of the Army that was in there assisting, so an additional be 40 personnel in there assisting. So some really good work in there happened today. Moving down into Romeo, along the Grizzly Ridge, all the way from DP 605 all the way down to Lake Davis. No issues up there today. Crews were in there mopping up, patrolling. Big water show. There's hose lay all along this whole line. So they're moving water, working in to get some depth in there and mop that up and secure it. Working over into Quebec. This dozer line around up onto Turner's Ridge was holding all day. The good work that happened yesterday and last night is still holding. We got hose and some hand line to secure the upper piece of the Turner Ridge, and they had no issues in there today. Working around the horn here, coming up, all this held really well today. And as Fire behavior said we did have a piece up here by the Coyote Hills. They had been working it all day, pushing dozer line around it. The smoke had set in. It was pretty calm, and then at about 1400 or so, the smoke lifted up, and we got that wind push that pushed it out, and the crews were unable to pick it up. It did cross over the 117 road, and we currently have folks out here looking at opportunities to try and pick it up and bring it around the horn. It did increase in size also out along this easterly front. With us dealing with this back here, we weren't able to get anybody out here to really try and attempt to try and go direct on it. Coming around on the top where the escarpment is, a little bit of movement down, but our partners to the west with the Milford group and the Hicks group from the other team, they had eyes on that and had a good solid plan if it did come off the escarpment down to protect all the structures in Milford as well as along the 395 corridor. We did have dozers constructing line on this other northerly flank, and as well as pushing down. They made it to about right here with the dozers, as far as information I got, and with the plan to tie this back into the 01 road. The 01 road, we had some folks out here scouting this and patrolling it. They found no issues. This piece is still holding good. Working down into our Davis group. Davis group was all embedded into both Quebec, and Papa, and they were increasing the force of manpower into trying to hold this piece up here. Our structure group was embedded into down here at Lake Davis in Grizzly Heights area, as well as up here in the Dixie Valley. And working into just doing structure protection and improving it around the structures. We do have a contingency line that comes off the Crocker cutoff. That was completed today. They had some graders up there improving the road, and we were looking at using some water tenders to spray retardant and hold that in there in a good piece. I know the night shifts out here coming up with a plan on some other contingencies to be able to capture this and catch this. We have some decision management points in place. We'll be working hand in hand with the sheriffs if need be. With that, end of report.
Thank you. Our next speaker we have for you tonight from the Lassen County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Dean Groudon.
Good evening, everyone. I want to first address or discuss warnings and orders. We were able to reduce some orders to warnings this evening. At about 7 o'clock, we reduced that area immediately surrounding immediately adjacent to the Army base. So it's that area on A25 and A26, and all those residences accessed off those two roads, Title IX, West Patton Village, Pole Line Road, that whole section out there. Those areas were reduced to a warning. I want to make sure people still in those areas be prepared to leave, follow the instructions for a warning, because things could change at any point in time. And if we do issue an order for those areas again, follow whatever instructions we give you. One of the concerns for that area is the limited access. You've got A25 and A26, and if the people residing in that area had gotten cut off, it could have been a real big issue for us. So be paying attention. If the fire is to reach that area again and we have to issue an order, we may have specific instructions related to which way you have to leave. For Milford and that 395 corridor, most of that is still under an order. Fire personnel have done a lot of work out there. People in the area will see a lot of aircraft working in that area. They've had dozers working up high on the mountain, but there still is a threat to that area, and we're evaluating the status each day. And I just ask people to remember, what happened in Janesville. That escarpment is a really hazardous area for all the personnel working the fire and so on. And remember, it came over and it made a big push. through a residential area or around structures. So just remember, that's part of what we're the potential for that Milford area and why it's still under an order. And again, we continue to evaluate evacuation status, and it's not just once a day, it's multiple times a day. This evening I met with some of the operations staff out in the field, talked with our local Lassen MODOC unit chief, and we decided that it was appropriate to drop that order to a warning for that Hurlong area. Hey, now on a different topic, we have a lot of obligations with evacuations. The law enforcement side does when fires are occurring in our community, but the other law enforcement calls don't stop. And today was actually a really exceptionally busy day on patrol. So our people are already stretched thin. So I just want people to understand that we have to triage those calls each day and each hour and every minute they come in and decide, if they're non-emergency calls, there are going to be likely going to be delays depending on what's happening that day. So I ask everyone just to be patient with us. We focus on those calls first where people are in danger or in harm's way. We make those the priority, and then we'll try to follow up with those other lower priority day-to-day calls as we have time available. I want to thank the fire personnel, working on these fires all over the state, and obviously specifically the Dixie fire. They've done, it's a pretty good air show the last couple of days out by Milford, and I really appreciate the effort put into protecting our communities. And in closing, I just want to say God bless and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Crowden. For our next speaker, we're going to go to a Zoom presentation where we'll be bringing you the Lassen Volcanic National Park Superintendent, Jim Richardson.
Good evening. I am Jim Richardson, Superintendent of Lassen Volcanic National Park. I first wanted to thank all the fire crews working the fire on the line and all those in various leadership and support roles that help make the line firefighters successful. Each role is important, and please know that you are appreciated. I have delegated fire operations to the Unified Incident Command teams, and we have been in close communications with both leadership and ground operations many times daily with the goal of putting the fire out and stopping the spread. Tonight, I want to speak to neighbors around the park, and in particular to the residents of Old Station who are immediately north of Lassen National Park. Now, for several days, the fire behavior in the park has moderated, and the spread has slowed down as it reached the reading fire scar from 2012. This is good in that there are less total fuel to burn and the spread is much slower. This is also challenging as the remaining standing dead trees can be a hazard to crews on the ground trying to stop the spread. I get the alerts even where I'm at. I have actually authorized mechanical equipment to work this specific area, which is much safer than for the ground crews. We also have helicopters dropping water that combined may allow us to hold the fire, actually put out this part of the fire within the park rather than the fire proceeding to the primary and backup lines which have been prepared to hold the fire. This more direct approach has a good chance of working under the current and predicted weather conditions, but we are not counting on this being successful, so we have the next lines all prepared. Generally, the way to control the fire spread is to locate and make whole natural and man-made barriers to the fire that can be defended. So far, the park highway has held as the western fire line well due to the great preparation and work by both hand crews and mechanized equipment. Our techniques for holding the fire to these lines have worked well in the park, even under these drought conditions. The fire has now burned through over 61% of the parkland area, and there have been losses of several structures. Although a few places have received high intensity fire, the majority so far are moderate or low intensity. Previous natural fires, prescribed fires, natural barriers, manual and mechanical removal of fuels have greatly moderated the fire behavior and given firefighters a chance for their tactics to be successful. There's no estimate for when the park will reopen, but we can already see that many of your favorite places in the park will continue to look good when you are able to return and take a look for yourself. We stand with the communities. Thank you.
Our next speaker tonight via video from the East Zone, the agency administrator for the Plumas National Forest, Chris Carlton.
Good evening. I'm Chris Carlton, Forest Supervisor here on the Plumas National Forest. Tonight I want to address our viewers and the folks in the West Zone, especially those along 395, Janesville, Hurlong, Milford area. We keep saying that we want to listen to your comments, we want to hear your comments and concerns, and I want to recognize that we're doing that tonight. I want to also acknowledge that we have not done as good a job of keeping positive, keeping good, consistent messaging and information to all of you in those areas. We heard some concerns that you weren't getting the information you wanted and that you felt that there was some focus more on the 70 corridor and that we were not really discussing enough around some of the concerns with that fire headed toward you. So today I really want to clarify some of the things we are doing and appreciate your feedback. We do have the story map on Facebook. We have multiple Facebook pages. We're updating InstaWeb. And then more specific to that area, we've got a daily deal on the local radio station. Our PIO shop is working with KJDX and KQNY. We've been doing the radio interviews. We've also gotten a bunch of those storyboards that we keep updated for everybody in Milford, and we have some PIOs who are spending time there as well. So really want to appreciate say thank you for those comments you've made, and we're doing our best to respond to those timely. So continue sharing them, and again, I apologize that we weren't getting the good information that you needed right up front. We're going to work on that and we'll do better. Have a great evening and stay safe.
Thank you. Our next speaker is the agency administrator for the Lassen National Forest, Deb Bumpus.
Good evening, everybody. I also want to thank all the firefighters and all the support folks that have been making this firefight possible for all the folks here in Susanville and in Quincy. Tonight I want to talk to you just a little bit about other things that sometimes happen on the fire line. Yesterday we lost one of the Lassen National Forest employees, Marcus Pacheco. Marcus worked on the Almanor Ranger District as an assistant fire engine operator and has over 30 years of service with the Forest Service, with CAL FIRE, and also as an instructor with local volunteer fire departments. Marcus passed away after a short illness. This winter, Marcus participated in a regional vaccination drive that we did in the LA area. So it really showed what kind of a person that he was, because he was always service-oriented, always willing to help other people regardless of what the duty was. We'll greatly miss him. It's a great loss for us on the forest and to his family and to the community. And I just wanted to share that with you tonight. Thank you.
And now for our final speaker, the West Zone Incident Commander for CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 1, Chief Nick Truax.
All right, good evening. First, Deb, thank you for sharing that with us. Fire Service lost a good one yesterday, and we share in the sympathy with the Forest Service family and all the Fire Service family, and definitely his family. As stated earlier, fire continues to grow, 881,000 acres. So what that fire perimeter looks like, we had some questions about interior smokes in some of those areas that typically this far after a fire has been through, we would have taken care of and been in and been able to mop up. But with a fire this size and the fire activity going on not only in California but all over the western United States, obviously our resources are at a premium. So what we have to do is move things around and kind of surge them into those priority areas that, like the Dixie Valley area currently, Highway 395, Old Station area, and the Bogart area. That's where we're having to put the majority of our resources, and we call that kind of a surge capacity. At the same time, we try and spread stuff out, so we're keeping eyes out all over the fire. So the 881,000 acres, that's over 875 miles of fire perimeter. So you're really talking about the span of California from Mexico to Oregon. So that's just the fire perimeter, not to mention all of the interior dozer lines and logging roads and so on and so forth, that especially are around the communities and areas of high infrastructure value. So we're trying to take care of all that the best we can. I like to kind of give the stats of what we have at the incident. 257 engines currently and 99 hand crews. So at any one time, about half of those resources are on the line, the other half are in, whether we're working a day shift, night shift, or 24 hours on, 24 hours off. So at any one time, half of our resources are on the line, half are off. If we have an incident like happened in Janesville a couple weeks ago, we will wake things up out of sleep and surge them down there to take care of that immediate problem. But what that does for our next day is it cuts into the resources we have the next day. So we really try and balance those shifts. So that's kind of the balancing act. So if you guys see something, especially if it's threatening the fire line or threatening any infrastructure values or anything, please call that in, let us know. We're going to need your help as folks start getting back into their homes. And again, as previously stated, that's really a high priority for us to get people home. I am happy that we were able to get people back in the area of Greenville today. Got repopulated, just terrible destruction down there. We really wanted to make sure that it was safe before people got in there. And so some folks were able to get in, see their properties, and start taking care of what the next step is for them. Some good news, as stated last night by Evans in the East Zone, they got the half battalion of Army soldiers. They had been in training. They got boots on the ground today, and it sounds like they were able to utilize them very good down on the East Zone. And then I got confirmation today that we will be getting 8 additional California National Guard crews, and hopefully by Tuesday. They're currently finishing up their training at Camp Roberts, and we're going to get 8 of the crews here, and 4 will go to the Caldor fire. So we are starting to see some additional resources come in while other stuff times out. So it's kind of the balancing act, and we will definitely get to those priority areas and get those locked up and move on to our next step of recovery. Again, thank you, and if you have questions, please type them into the chat, and we'd be glad to answer them. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief Truax. Most of the questions tonight were answered during the presentation from the speakers. We'll now move on to the period of answering a few of those outstanding questions. And with that, we'd like to bring up Operations Section Chief Tony Brownell.
Okay, I got a couple questions. A couple of them were up on the old station area. What we've done to prepare for the fire at Old Station. We've gone there with dozers, masticators, which are basically giant grinders that grind the brush down, and feller bunchers, which they basically cut the trees down and are able to stack them. We've gone all around all the structures up there, the community, subdivisions. We've prepped all that area. We've gone along 89 and cleaned a lot of that area up. On 44, we've cleaned it up. So we haven't bulletproofed it yet, but we've made it as safe as possible. If fire does get in that area, we're able to protect structures. One question was about the red dot. That's what we call a mobile retardant base. So the same retardant that we drop out of our aircraft, such as our air tankers, that little base up there could mix it up in big tanks. The helicopters will dip out of it, and they'll be able to drop it on the fire line. And also we can fill water tenders up with it, and the water tenders will drive along the roads or around houses and will spray down there. It doesn't stop the fire, but it retards it to enough to where it will slow down and be less intense. Question about Warner Valley. So we are diligently in there mopping it up. We're hoping to have that, it's in the order now, we're hoping to have that in a warning very soon. Hopefully a couple days, we'll be able to get everybody back in there. But it's based on what we get accomplished. They mentioned how much fire line we have. We're trying to get resources in there to open that up. It takes time. Question about the red line, how long it takes from the red line to be turned to black line. There's no set answer to that. So we have to go in where red line means it's uncontained and the fire can't come out of it. The black line means it's pretty safe. We're really confident the fire can't come out of there, but the fire can still have small chances to come out of there. There's never 100% certainty on it. So we get areas that have different fuel models. So grass, brush, timber. The higher the fuel model, such as timber, the longer it takes to mop it up. There's a lot more duff down there, stump holes. Brush is sometimes heavier to get through there, and how clean it burnt all determines on how long it takes it to turn in from red to black. There's no set answer. We're doing it as fast as we can, but we want to make it safe. So we don't turn anything black until we're really confident it's not going to come out. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Brownell. We'd like to thank all the presenters for their information. If you would like to find the evacuation maps for Plumas, Lassen, and Butte counties, you may find those listed on their respective websites. Incident updates will be provided at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. We will continue to provide the Facebook and YouTube Dixie incident every evening, and we invite you to join us tomorrow for the live stream briefing of the Great Basin Team 1. That live stream may be found on the CAL FIRE Lassen MODOC Facebook page, the Plumas National Facebook page, or the Lassen National Forest Facebook page. In the meantime, you may go to InciWeb and search under the Dixie incident for the latest information. You may also go to the CAL FIRE homepage at www.fire.ca.gov. Please continue to follow social media platforms for the Lassen National Forest, Plumas National Forest, and CAL FIRE LMU. Finally, at the end of this presentation, we will have for you on screen QR codes which will link you to our live presentations and email updates. We sincerely appreciate your time this evening. Thank you for joining us. Please be safe.